The Three Little Birds podcast by Amy. Oh, da 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 da.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Three Little Birds podcast. I'm Amy. Thank you so much for listening. It's such a pleasure to spend this time with you. Today, I thought we could talk about something I heard a little while ago, and I thought it was really interesting to think about the distinction between the two because I don't know that I'd ever considered it before. And that is, are we kind or are we nice? Because they're not the same thing. And I heard it and it blew my mind a little bit because in my head, they're sort of synonyms, you know? In the past, and even now, you know, I would describe somebody as a nice person. I think most of us want to be nice, right? We want to hear that, oh, they said you're really nice. We're taught to be nice as children, be polite, we don't upset people, we're supposed to share, we're supposed to smile, we're not supposed to make a fuss, you know, just get on with it, don't be too fussy. But I wonder now, the more I think about it, is being nice stopping us from being truly kind? Because they're not the same thing. I think the point is this: nice, if you think about it, is about making other people feel comfortable. Kind is about what's genuinely best for you and for everybody else. Sometimes they're the same thing, and sometimes they're complete opposites. So let me give you some examples. So nice would say, I'll do it, even though you're completely exhausted. Kind would say, I'd love to help, I don't have capacity this week. Nice would avoid a difficult conversation, and kind would have them with love and honesty. Nice would tell people what they want to hear. Kind would tell them what they need to hear, maybe more gently. Nice wants to keep everybody happy. Kind accepts that not everybody will be happy. Nice often apologizes for even existing. Kind takes responsibility when it's appropriate, but not for things that aren't theirs. Nice says yes, and kind checks in with itself first of all. Nice would sacrifice itself for other people. Kind would include itself. And so when you hear it like that, I wonder if you still want to be nice. I don't know if you ever did. I used to want to be nice. But now I realize I don't want to be nice. I want to be kind. And I'm so glad now that I understand the distinction between the two, because it means that I can become aware of my own words and thoughts and behaviors and adjust them as needed. Because sometimes, I said in a recent podcast how language is important, the language we use, and really our language, you know, words are energy, thoughts are energy, feelings are energy, it's all energy really. Sometimes saying no is the kindest thing you can do for yourself, but also for other people, because if you say yes and then you resent it, you're not going to give your best. You're going to give off that air of resentment. You're going to carry it with you. If you don't deal with it, it will probably manifest in some way, shape, or form in your body or in your life. And also, you're taking up a space that somebody else probably really wanted, you know? So saying no in that sense stops resentment, it creates honesty, and it builds trust, because that means that people know where they stand with you. And what I find really interesting when I look back over my friendships and relationships and, with my marriage, what I realize is that I'm very much attracted to, or I attract into my life, people who are kind but not nice. And I love that, because you become what you surround yourself with, right? So clearly my subconscious knew that I wanted to be kind, and they're the people that I'm attracting into my life. So straight talkers, people that don't say yes when they mean no, and don't say no when they mean yes. People that tell you exactly how they feel in a kind way. People who, when you interact with them, you know exactly where they stand and where you stand. I personally really appreciate that, because often people will beat around the bush and won't get to the point. You won't know how they really feel about something. And it's really confusing, honestly, isn't it? I'm sure you've been there as well. So I think it's a really great thing to bring our attention to bring our awareness to, because as I always say, once you're aware of it, then you can do something about it. So the thing is about being nice often comes from a place of fear, right? It comes from a place of fear of conflict, maybe fear of rejection, a fear of not being liked. Whereas kindness comes from love, a love for others, and enough love for yourself that you don't disappear. I think nice, you can start to sort of cancel out or dull down your you-ness, your unique characteristics, because you're trying to be palatable for everybody around you. And that's not kind, because that's not really you. You're being inauthentic in that sense. You're dulling down yourself, which honestly is a sad thing to do, because you are unique. You are amazing. You are perfect just as you are. And if the people that you surround yourself with can't see how amazing you are, you're in the wrong group. You're in the wrong group. They're not your people. Your people are out there, but they can't find you unless you are authentically yourself. They just can't. They're not going to be able to dig deep enough to find you under all those layers of nice. You're going to have to strip back those layers. You are. And it's hard work, but it's worth it, because once you start revealing your true self, then you're going to attract in your crowd, your people, the people that resonate with you and who you resonate with, and who you can feel relaxed around, right? Who you can feel authentic and true, and who you can be honest with. So I encourage you to be kind, not nice. Here's some ideas for you. Instead of asking what's the nice thing to do, ask what the kind thing would be. And sometimes they're the same, and sometimes the answer will surprise you, because it probably will be the opposite. You don't have to stop caring about other people. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you need to become really blunt or brutal in your delivery. It's just about acknowledging that you count. You're important. In fact, you're the most important person in your life. And if you're not kind to yourself first, it's going to be very difficult to be kind to other people without feeling resentful. So start with yourself. Everything starts with you. Everything starts with you. It all starts with us. And I wanted to tag on here. So there's kind and there's nice, and there's also people pleasing. So there's nothing wrong with being nice, I should say. All right? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being nice. I'd like to think I'm a nice person in the sense that you can interchange nice and kind. I'm not speaking negatively of nice people. I'm just highlighting the distinction between nice and kind, and sharing some prompts about how we can think about those two things, and acknowledging that actually they're not always the same. So linked to being nice, there's also people pleasing. And this is interesting because it came up last week. I was talking to a friend who's also a client and a Reiki student, actually, an amazing Reiki practitioner. And they were saying that they were struggling with people pleasing. And I get it, because honestly, if you're in a service-based industry, you want people to be happy. That's essentially the goal, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're here to help people, to support people. That we want them to feel happy. We want them to be pleased. I'm not talking about catering to your clients' needs if you are in the service industry. What I'm talking about is when we try to keep everybody else happy because it feels like the safest option. People pleasing comes from a place of fear, often related to being nice. That's why I'm talking about them in the same episode. So a fear of disappointing someone, a fear of conflict, a fear of rejection, a fear of being judged, a fear of not being liked. Kindness comes from choice. Kindness, as we said, comes from love. So while the action might look the same in certain circumstances, the intention behind it, the energy behind it is completely different. Because really, if you want genuine connection with people, you need to be, as I said before, genuinely, authentically true to yourself. And that's not going to be palatable to everybody. It just isn't, I'm afraid. We can't please everybody all the time. We just can't. I would love to please everybody all the time, but there are some people who are not interested in what I have to offer. Fine. That is fine. There is someone out there who offers what they want. And just as, they might go to a different coach or a different Reiki teacher or a different Reiki practitioner or a different sound healer or a different community, that's okay, because they need to find their people and I need to find mine. And I'm totally fine with that. Totally fine with that. It's also, if you're in business, an interesting thing, because when you start a business, literally one of the first things everybody says is, what's your niche? What is your niche? Right? Who are you going to focus on? Basically, who are your people? And initially, I think most people's response is, everybody is my people. I don't have favorite people. Everybody's my people. What you find generally over time is that you start to attract a certain type of person, maybe, a particular gender, maybe a particular age range, maybe a person with particular interests or needs or wants, maybe someone who's interested in one thing but not another thing. And I find it fascinating because it's one way that people pleasing can leak into the business world, right? When people don't niche down. I'm not saying you have to niche down, by the way. There are things that apply to all people. Let's take shoes, for example. Pretty much everybody wears shoes at some point in their life, don't they? And, a shoe is a shoe. Shouldn't make much difference. But if one shoe company tries to please everybody, they're going to have to make a lot of different types of shoes, because you've got people that want to do sports, who want the cushioning and the style of shoe that's breathable, or maybe it's waterproof if they want to go hiking, in which case you need a higher, support around the ankle, and you need a tougher sole, and you need strong laces, and you want it to be waterproof and breathable. Or maybe they are people that work in an office and they need to be smart, and so it needs to be comfortable because they're on their feet all day, but it also needs to look good, and maybe it needs to be waterproof as well. And then you've got children's shoes. You need to make them smaller in all sorts of different sizes and widths and lengths and all of that stuff. Of course, a shoe company could cater to everybody's needs, but it would be very, very difficult, wouldn't it? Because you're splitting your focus then across multiple different areas. What you often find is that there is a company that will specialize in one type of shoe for one type of person. So, shoes for people that run, shoes for people that play basketball, shoes for people that play baseball, shoes for people that play football, shoes for people that play rugby, shoes for people that want to look smart and work in an office, shoes for people that love high heels, which is not me, by the way. But it's really interesting because unless we niche down, it's almost like we're people pleasing from a business perspective. You know, we want to please everybody, but because everybody is so unique, so varied, so unique, so different in their needs and their wants and their desires, it's really quite hard to serve all people at all times and make them happy. I always find the connection between personal development and business fascinating, because what you often find, or at least what I'm finding, is that my business growth is directly related to my personal growth. Every single time. Every time I learn a lesson, it feeds through into my business. Every time. I love it. And that's why I love learning, right? Because every time I learn something, I can feed it through. So let's think about it. Let's think. Are we people pleasers? Now, if I ask that question, you probably know if you're a people pleaser or not. But let's have a look. I've got a little checklist here for you. Do you struggle to say no? Do you over-explain yourself? Do you apologize constantly? Do you avoid difficult conversations? Do you say, I'm easy, when you actually have a preference? Do you worry someone is upset with you? Do you put everybody else first? Do you feel guilty resting? Do you take responsibility for everybody else's feelings? And let me tell you, my friend, if you're nodding along, you are not alone. Because we're working through it together. I don't apologize constantly anymore. I am getting better at having difficult conversations. I find it easier to say no. I no longer over-explain myself. Maybe sometimes, but not always. I do say I'm easy quite a lot, but generally when I say I'm easy, I don't really have a preference. So for things like, where do you want to go for dinner? Unless I really am craving something particular, I don't mind. I just like going out for dinner. I'll eat what you put in front of me, and most restaurants have a varied enough menu that they will cater to my tastes anyway. Do I worry that people are upset with me? Not usually, no. Do I put everyone else first? Well, that certainly was a habit of mine, and I still do it occasionally. I think I'm getting better at it. Do I feel guilty resting? Now, this one, I would say sometimes I do, because I do like to be productive. And so sometimes I will be resting and I'll think, maybe I could get up and do X, Y, and Z. But I am getting better at it. Do I take responsibility for everyone else's feelings? I don't really anymore. I did used to, for sure. I've certainly done all of these things multiple times over. But maybe that's just showing growth is happening, and I'm happy about that. The thing about people pleasing is that it doesn't create peace. It creates exhaustion. You become overwhelmed, you become resentful, you become disconnected from yourself, and you become unsure of what you actually want. And if you listen to the podcast about intuition, where we talk about staying connected and in tune and listening to your inner guidance, people pleasing is never going to be what your intuition tells you to do. It won't. Your intuition will tell you to please yourself. And not in a, oh, that's really selfish, how rude sort of way. But if you think about it, people pleasing, or if somebody asks you to please them over you, right? I want to do this thing, let's go and do this thing that I want to do. That is a selfish thing. But ultimately, we're all selfish, aren't we? And I don't think there's anything wrong with being selfish, and I don't think there's anything wrong with compromise. But when we're people pleasing, we're not being honest about how we feel. We're pandering to somebody else's whims, if you like. So it's just being mindful about what you want and whether you actually love that person enough that you are so happy to go and do that thing with them, even if it's not your first choice, or whether you're afraid that if you don't do it, something will happen. This is okay, so my husband's Italian, and he's told me lots of stories of things that have happened, in his life. Obviously, we've been together a long time now. And what I find really interesting is that Italians tend to be fairly direct, at least the ones I've met. They know what they like. They like what they know often. That's massively generalizing. But what I love about my husband, as I said, is he's a straight talker. He won't tell you yes if he means no. He's very direct, and I really like that. I love that about him because I know where I stand. I always know where I stand. And when we were getting married, in Italy, basically the idea is you invite everybody you know. And in England, it's slightly different. I had maybe 60 people that I wanted to invite to the wedding. He had well over 200. And I was like, but do you know those 200? Yeah. Okay. When's the last time you spoke to those 200 people? Well, see, the thing is, if I don't invite them, then they'll do this or think this or say that. And I said, well, we have to draw the line somewhere. We can't invite everybody because, first of all, we have to pay for it. But second of all, how are we going to accommodate all those people? And so we decided that we weren't going to people please. Also, why do, really, when it comes to weddings, I think, why do people care, really? It's nice to be invited to a wedding. It's lovely. But you have to let the couple decide for themselves. It can't be decided by the parents. The parents can't say, you have to invite your third cousin twice removed because otherwise they'll be offended. Well, you should invite somebody because you want them to be there to celebrate the day with you, not because you're worried about how they feel. Because that's fear-based decision-making, isn't it? I'm worried, I'm fearful, I'm scared that if I don't invite them, this will happen, or if I don't invite them, X, Y, and Z will happen. If I don't invite them, they might be rude to me on the street. It's not really a reason. The reason to invite somebody is because you want them there. Hopefully I'm making clear the distinction. Anyway, people pleasing does not create peace, it creates exhaustion. And the ironic part of that is most people don't even realize that you are sacrificing anything because you're saying, oh no, you decide, I'm easy. Let's go with what you want to do. What would make you happy? What do you prefer? Let's do what you want to do. And really, it's unfair of us then to be resentful because we're not expressing our feelings. And if we're not expressing our feelings, the other person isn't able to honor them because they don't know. They don't know what we're feeling or thinking or what our opinions are if we don't express them. So I'm speaking to myself as well. Let's get better at communicating our feelings in a kind way, and let's feel better about taking up space, because I think Certainly, in my experience, people pleasing is a fear of taking up space. It's almost apologizing for your existence, right? Thank you so much for letting me being an extra in your movie. I will just, walk alongside while you act the main character part. No, you are the main character in your life. You are the main character in your life. You are the main character in your life, my friend. You are. You are. You're not the best friend in the movie. You're not the extra that just walks through the scene in the background. You are the main character. Everybody is the main character in their own life. Let other people be their own main character and you be yours. Okay? If you're the main character in a movie generally knows what they want. So I would start there. Really think, get still and quiet. Really think about what you want. Really think about it. Really consider it. A really nice thing to do is to sit with a pen and a piece of paper and just do some free form writing. Just let it all flow out of you through the pen onto the page. What I want at the top of the page, write it down. What I want, what I really want. And write down whatever comes to you. Don't limit it. Don't block it. Don't say, oh, that's unrealistic. Oh, my husband will never go for that. My wife will never agree to that. No, none of that. Let it all come out of you. It can be the most weird and wonderful stuff. Let it all flow out, all out of you. You might sit there for half an hour, an hour. Keep writing until you completely run out of ideas. Get it out of you and then read it back. And what I find is if what's written on the page feels a little bit exciting and a tiny bit scary, you're usually on the right track. If it makes you giggle or smile or light up inside, usually you're on the right track. And they're the sorts of things that you really want. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy or complicated. You don't have to live $1 billion lifestyle necessarily, but you might. That's fine too. It might just be, I really want to eat at this restaurant. I really want to have more of this kind of food. I want to wear this kind of clothes or shoes or have that kind of handbag or drive that kind of car or have that kind of holiday experience. That's what I want to do. This is how I love to spend my Saturday night or my Sunday. This is how I want to spend my week. This is the kind of work I'd love to do. These are the kind of people I want to hang around. These are the kind of games I like playing. Or I hate playing games, so I want to do something else. I want to spend all my time at the cinema. I don't know. Whatever it is, write it all down, get it out of you onto the page, and then read it back. And then that can be something that you come back to, right? So if somebody asks you, where do you want to go for dinner? And you've written down, I want to eat more Thai food. Maybe you suggest a Thai restaurant. If somebody asks you if you're free on Saturday, but you've said that you want to spend your Saturdays alone, journaling or lying on the grass in the park or at the local beach or whatever, you could say, thank you so much. I already have something planned on Saturday. What about another day next week? Or maybe you have a desire to go to a particular place with somebody else and they ask you. Maybe you're going to museums or art galleries together and they have a particular taste in art and you have a different taste in art. Or maybe next time you suggest where you want to go. And if they don't want to come with you, you can go on your own. Going on a date on your own is one of the best things ever. Let me tell you, I went to see Ray at the start of the year. Ray, I saw her in concert at the O2. It was a last minute thing. I kept hearing her music everywhere. And when I hear things more than once, I'm like, it's almost like a sign for me from the universe that I need to dive a bit deeper. So I started listening to her albums and all of that stuff. And I really enjoy her storytelling, her writing. I think she's really clever and an amazingly talented singer. And I asked my husband if he wanted to go and see her, but it's not really his bag. I was like, fine. I asked my daughter. She was like, it's okay, but not really my thing. I was like, fine. I asked a couple of other people. No one was free, and people I spoke to at the time anyway weren't that interested. Fine. Do you know what I did? I bought a ticket and I went on my own. I ate what I wanted beforehand. I drank what I wanted. I went to the concert. I left just before the end so that I could get back on the train, and it was quite calm. And I had a great time. It was so good. It was so good. And I didn't feel weird and I didn't feel lonely. I felt empowered because I was like, this is great. I can do exactly what I want to do. Almost overwhelmed by the choice, right? Because usually when I go out with my family, if you've heard me talk before, some people eat some things, some people eat other things. Anyway, it was great and no people pleasing, and I made all the decisions and I loved it. And then I came home and wrote a post about it on social media, and literally like 15 people were like, I would have come with you. I love Ray. Anyway, never mind. Next time we'll all go and see Ray together. Going and doing what you want on your own, making your own decisions, deciding what you want and then going for it. It's so empowering. So I really encourage you to go on a date with yourself, eat the food you want to eat, do the thing you want to do, make your own decisions. And they don't have to be immediate shifts, right? You might work up to it. Someone asks you to go and do something and your gut's saying, ugh, I really, it's the end of the week. I'm going to be really tired. I just want to go home, put my pajamas on and watch a movie in bed. Instead of saying yes, which maybe you would normally do, and instead of saying no, which is okay, by the way, you're allowed to say no. No is a complete sentence and a valid response and requires no explanation. You can just say no. You might say, can I check my diary? You might think on it, ask yourself if it is what you really want to do. And if it is, say yes. And if it isn't, you say, I've checked my diary, I'm not available that evening. And you don't need to explain yourself. If you want to catch up with them another time, maybe you propose another date. And if you don't want to catch up with them another time, thank you so much for the invitation. I can't make it. I really appreciate the offer. The end. You don't need to feel guilty. Okay? You really don't. Something I would suggest is if you find guilt cropping up, ask yourself if you've actually done anything wrong, other than put yourself first. Have you done anything wrong? Have you harmed anybody? Have you done anything really that you need to feel guilty about? If it was your BFF or someone you love with all of your being, would you judge them? What would you say to them? Get curious about what that feeling of guilt is, because most of the time there's nothing to feel guilty about, is there? It's also, can I just remind you, okay to let somebody else be slightly disappointed. Someone else's disappointment, someone else's feelings aren't automatically your responsibility. It's not your job to make everybody else feel okay. It's not your job. I know you want to help and support other people. I do too. Literally my job. It is literally my job, okay? But people being disappointed because I have other priorities, that's not up to me. That's up to them. Everyone is responsible for their own well-being. You can't take on that responsibility because you're responsible for your well-being. You can't be responsible for yours and theirs. Your responsibility is your job and theirs is their job. So why do we do it? Why do we do it? I think many of us learned it at a young age. It's often, if you're praised for being good. I was always praised for being good and I really enjoyed that. Who doesn't like a bit of praise? I love being praised. So, if you're praised for being good, you find ways to be good, to be perceived at least as being good, don't you? Maybe you learn to keep the peace. Maybe conflict or speaking up didn't feel safe for you. Maybe you tied your worth to being useful. And it's nice to be useful, but you don't have to be useful to be worthy. You are worthy right now. There's nothing else you need to do to be worthy. I want you to hear me say that. There's nothing else you need to do. There's nothing else you need to be. There is no one else you need to be. You are worthy. Just by the virtue of being alive, you are worthy. You are worthy. The end, you are worthy. You are worthy and you are enough. You're allowed to have needs. You're allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to protect your peace. Being kind doesn't mean you have to abandon yourself or sacrifice yourself. So this week, I want to prompt you to notice just one moment where you automatically would say yes. Just one moment where you wouldn't even think twice. You would just say yes. I want you to pause. I want you to take a breath. And I want you to ask yourself what you would choose if you weren't worried about disappointing anybody else. What would you choose? If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love you to share it with somebody who always puts everybody else first. And maybe you know someone that apologizes all the time. Maybe you know someone that feels guilty always or is always worrying about what other people think, who avoids conflict or difficult conversations, someone who always says, "Oh, I'm easy, don't worry about it, let's do what you want." Maybe you send this episode to them. And if you're looking for a place where you can slow down, work on your own identity, where you want to be reminded of your worth, where you'd like some inspiration and prompts and educational, fun, joyful content, if you'd like some connection with like-minded women, you're very welcome to come and join us in the safe space. It's a community of women who are learning that taking care of themselves isn't selfish, it's necessary. And I would remind you that being a generous person, being a kind person, is not the same as being a people pleaser or being nice, okay? You are so kind, you are so caring, you are so generous, you are so lovely. And there's nothing wrong with wanting people to be happy, and there's nothing wrong with being nice to people. But there is something wrong about putting yourself last every time, because you're worth more than that. You are worth having a full cup, because when you have a full cup, it overspills onto other people. You want to feel so good that it radiates out of you. You don't want to feel so depleted that you feel like you can't go on. And there is a difference, right? There's a difference. You being kind to other people is that joy, that kindness, that generosity overflowing. You can't help but spread it out far and wide because you feel so good. And when that's the case, you attract all the best things and all the best people to you. So it really is about being kind to yourself. It's the best place to start. Being considerate of yourself, treating yourself as you would treat other people, because you treat everybody else so well. So ask what you would choose if you weren't worried about disappointing anybody. Think about what you really want and become aware of how you respond to others and their requests, and maybe make a couple of tweaks this week. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you start moving towards things that you want. And I hope you start or continue acting like the main character in your own life, because that is what you are. All right, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.